And now after 2 parts, our model should look something like this. One thing you will notice, I made this rhomboid pattern, which from one of my videos. So if you want to make it, go to that video. I'm not gonna do it right now here. So first thing first, let's make sure that we have this setup. So what I did, I think in previous video I did create this in a subnetwork, but actually what I figured out, let's just bring it back in. If you want to do a subnetwork, we're gonna do it all of the parts inside one subnetwork. So just extract all of the contents back in inside obj level like that. And let's actually start adding some material so we can easily see in all of these clusters. So first of all, what I like to do is actually I have a hotkeys for the quick selection between all of the contexts. So what I have in Alt Q and Alt W is basically between OBJ and material. And you can assign them in a Go submenu. You can see that objects, material, and all of these shops, and all of that. So just I have assigned it to the Alt Q and the Alt W like that. And now let's put down a principal shader, just kind of like your base material in Houdini. And now what we can do is, what I want to do is just make it a little bit maybe darker. Let's duplicate it. Let's call it dark. Just 2 colors for me for now. And now what you do is just start dragging on any of these things that I want. So for the darker one, I want just a little bit darker, maybe buttons like that. And let's also put it on top of it like that. And for the lighter ones, let's put down on this and this like that. So this just makes it a little bit easier to view some of the things that we need to see, so that all of these buttons do not blend in within the background of the actual base of the object. So like that. Of course, you can go and play around with metallic values, reflectivity, but I usually just leave it at whatever it is by default. Only thing that roughness is kind of the most impactful for us, for the viewer. So like that. For this looks fine. Let's go back. And also what's cool about this, you can also use this with the modeler. For the modeler, there's actually the material submenu. If you press on it, you can see you can get a material, you can pick new and clear it. So let's say I want to remove this material from our buttons. Just click on this and press clear. You can see it deletes the material. Let's say get, and then I just dark, accept, and that's it. It added the dark one. So, and then you can create a new material, and with new material you're going to go automatically in material and put it down. So it is a lot easier, I guess you would say. It is a lot quicker to just quickly assign a material to it. So if you have a modeler, that's one of the advantages you get from it. Now let's continue on. Now what we need to do is take care of these buttons. We actually want to boolean some of these PCs. So what we want to boolean is this USB. So because this USB goes inside the object, and also these buttons are also inserted inside it. So for this panel, our front panel actually has a little bit of a room for the buttons, so it's not perfectly flush with the object. So for these and maybe also for these, but maybe even not. For this, let's maybe also boolean also these. So let's get to it. So first of all, what we're gonna do is actually duplicate our PC that we do want to actually boolean out from our panel. So let's go inside our buttons and let's start selecting some of these buttons that you want to actually extract as a new obj level object. So what you can do is actually go inside here and press on this select groups or connected geometry. You can see it's going to, you can write in the attribute that you want to select your objects from. So in here I think it's automatically going to put a name, but you can see you can also select any of these. So for it's the name attribute, and by name you can see, since we did create a name attribute for all of our buttons, what we can do is quickly just select anything that you want to actually boolean out. So we know that we want to USB, and these buttons, and let's also select these like that. Now let's make sure we're in a create in a object level, and let's just go inside our polygon, and let's say it's actually modify. It's actually, let's post on extract like that, and that's it. Now you can see we have extracted only these buttons outside our network, these networks. In this, let's call it boolean buttons like that. Now that we have our buttons that we want to boolean, let's go to the front panel and let's start creating our boolean. So first of all, we ended up with output node. We symmetrized it and then we output it. So first of all, put down an object merge. In object merge, let's put down a dot slash and boolean buttons. So this is going to import our boolean buttons also inside our extract front geometry node. So now let's put down a boolean. After the symmetry, let's put down a boolean inside here, and let's connect it to the output, and let's put down normal all of after that. So now we do not have any normals. So of course we want a little bit of a setup for these buttons. So first of all, these buttons have to be a little bit bigger, and we can't really boolean out this USB part. So first of all, let's select this USB part. Let's extrude it back of it like that. Actually not extrude, but actually duplicate it and move it outwards like that, and then extrude it, and then let's output also back. So now we can individually also just take this and scale it if we want to fit our USB, and we can actually just take this. Let's actually delete this so it doesn't bother us like that. So for these buttons, what we can do is actually take all of these, put down edit node, go to the local frame by connectivity, and just scale them just a little bit of outwards, so that they actually going to, the hole has to be a little bit bigger than actual buttons. So we can also scale them outwards so that they match around where we want to boolean out. So for these, what I want to do is just basically take the back of it and extrude them like that. And actually I probably want these to be, well, let's just take a look at it later on. So now let's go to the side and make sure that we have somewhere there is going to be a line where we're gonna boolean out. So that's fine. Now let's take a look at the boolean. Let's go to normal. Let's look at normal and go to these parts. Select all of it. For me it's Control A. And let's move them inwards like that. And now let's also go back to the OBJ. Let's do not show boolean button that we want to, since we already merged them together. And now let's just select back on this one. So let's take a look at it. So for these buttons, actually like this maybe a little too much of it. So let's scale them maybe more inwards like that. So for this edit node, let's go to here. So this edit node, we want to also scale these outwards. So this looks good. I like this. There's actually quite a bit of a hole in it for this USB. So this looks fine. And so for these, all I'm really looking for these parts is basically so it doesn't actually intrude the inner parts of my modeled parts. So this actually is good. This actually looks fine. I'm gonna move this inward, these buttons anyway. It's gonna look fine. And now all I want to do is actually create these. I actually want to displace, since there's actually all of these. So let's go to the front panel and let's put down inside this same boolean actually the box. Let's put down a box. So first of all, let's move it something like that. I just align it to the one of these, something like this. Actually, let's move it something like that. So now all we have to do is select and start beveling it. That's the wrong one. 7 maybe. Well, since it's a pretty high resolution mesh, that's fine. Now I want to actually mirror it on other side. So since we did a symmetry in here, there's no use for us to create a new symmetry. Just duplicate it and connect it to this one like that. You can see it's not completely on the center, but that's fine. And now let's just merge these together. Let's select these, merge them together, and connect them to the boolean like that. And now all we have to do is move this box so it's actually booleans out it like that. And now we have our panel like that. Now let's take a look at the result like that. And if your shading looks a little bit weird, don't worry about it. So in normal, make sure it's by face area like that. And you can see there's a little bit of artifacting inside here. That's fine because we still have to triangulate it. So once we triangulate this mesh, it's going to look just fine. So you triangulate by divide like that. You can see it's because it's going to triangulate it, and you can see all of the artifacting is going to be gone like that. So but that's a little bit later. Maybe we can do that with all of these in one swoop with all of these parts. So don't worry about it for now. So let's put this boolean inside on top of it that we're not using it. So obviously you're can create displays behind it, but that's a little bit later. So now let's actually start working with the back of it because there's actually some fans in it that we need to cut out some parts in it. So let's get onto it. Now let's work on this fan. So I have this picture that's inside, that's going to be linked on the description. Let's start with in a new geometry node. Let's say fan holes. Let's go inside and let's start with the curve. So with the curve, let's restart selection. What I want to do is basically just draw the half of it, and then we're gonna symmetrize it. So just make sure you have enough to make sure that the other half is going to be copied. So let's a little bit above the half of it. Let's start drawing it. So I have just a basic polygon curve, and I'm gonna do it something like this. It has to be totally high resolution, something like this. Then you can just move it because you're still going to resample it anyway. So for the other one, let's draw the other one. So let's create another curve. So just duplicate it, go inside, and then just reset selection and start drawing the next one. Something like this. So now we have our curves. Let's select them and let's merge them together. And now let's put down the resample node. Now in resample, make sure that we have instead of straight edges, but subdivision curves, and let's make it a little bit smaller, something like this, so that it's actually, you can see, subdivision curves enabled. We're getting very nice smooth results when we resample this curve, something like this. Obviously, if you really want to, you can go back and just start to move these out to get a better fit for this. So maybe a little bit of a, because there's a little bit of a loss because it's subdivision curves and it's kind of goes inwards a little bit. So this looks good. Now let's mirror it. What I'm going to do is put down a lab symmetry node. So first of all, I want to make sure our axis is correct. So first of all, since you want to mirror x-axis, I have a couple of presets for it. So in one of my videos, I showed up how can we set up this automatic mirroring. So obviously, let's say centroid is not correct. So just Control Shift and hold on it, delete it, and just put it to 0 like that. And now we know that basically our axis is correct, So basically -1 is our x-axis. Now I want to basically just move this for it to actually symmetrize. You know that this is basically all we really have to do is move it by 45 degrees like that, and then just move it inwards like that. That's it. Now we have our curve. Now that we have symmetrized one part of it, let's copy it 3 more times. First of all, let's create this. Let's actually make sure that this is actually the one curve, each one of these. You can see, even though we symmetrize it, when I want to select any of these curves, you can see I select both parts of it separately. So first of all, put down a polypath node. Polypath is basically going to combine these nodes together. Now it's a single node, like that. And now put down a duplicate node. And let's start by detaching the handle. And let's move it to the actual, let's just try to get it somewhere at the center of it. So the best part where you can kind of maybe start is by just with this grid. You can see that this grid is kind of a pretty good telling where it should go. Somewhere in here and on a little bit below this one. Here. That's it. Reattach the handle and now let's just copy it. So we want to make sure rotation is want to rotate it. So it's going to be -90 and want to copy it 2 more times. You can see it's not totally correct, but this picture is actually not. It's very hard for us to get exactly correct picture for it, but it's close enough for us. And the main shapes are correct, and we know that rotation is exactly the same, and it should be straight. So that looks good. Now all we really have to do is make a geometry out of it, and then boolean it out. One thing you will notice that there's whenever we copy these, you see there's a little bit of a too many polygons in one place. So what you can do is actually, once you have polypathed together, what you can do is actually resample it again. So let's put down a resample again. Let's put it something like this, like that. Now we're getting very even amount of polygons all around. So now what I'm going to do is probably start boolean out of the back of it and the bottom of it. So let's turn off the, actually let's just take this boolean fan hold and let's go to the bottom and so bottom and the back part of it like that. Let's put down a object merge. Let's reference it. So it's going to be fan holes like that. So first of all, let's select it and let's actually rotate it. Let's scale them. And I really don't have actually the back of it, so you're just gonna have to eyeball it. So now let's put down a boolean. Connect these up. Output inside here. Let's put down normal. Now let's just move this for our boolean. So I'm just going to eyeball it from the pictures. It's something like somewhat like this big, and check it to be on the other side, something like here. So that's close enough for me, like that. This is going to be our hole where the fans are going to be. You can see we're gonna fix this up with the triangulation, so don't worry about it. So that's it for this, and let's just go back now. Let's take a look at, and let's turn off the visibility for it. Now we have a back of it, and now for our boolean pieces, what we need more to do is actually on the sides. There's actually a couple of holes where we can actually, which is for the screwing in the, whatever we have our accessories that we want to hold on. So we have a couple of screw placements on the sides. So let's do those. Also, one thing I just noticed that you actually have on the bottom of it, there's also these kind of holes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's make these real quick. Let's just combine it with this boolean that we just created here. So let's put down a box. Let's go on top of the view. You see you have still this one, but that's okay. So all I really want to do is I'm just going to eyeball it. So first of all, let's squish it, something like this. Actually, let's delete this one, so we like that. Take these, bevel them, like that, and then just duplicate them. Duplicate them 7 times. It's going to show 8 times total number, like that. And now let's merge them together with this one, like that, and then boolean them like that. So now let's go to the box and let's move it to the inner place. So it's kind of like should be somewhere around here in the picture, like that. Let's actually gotta scale it in a bit. So something like this. Then the bevel has to be a little bit smaller, like that. And then the copy between them has to be a little bit like that. So that looks close enough, I guess. It's still there, so just gotta make it also. So that's okay. So that's enough boolean for the bottom piece. Now let's do these screws. And now let's create these holes. All I'm going to do is basically do the same way we did with the buttons. Let's put down a curve. Let's make sure that it's a polygon curve, and let's just start creating these kind of curves. So here, duplicate it, enter it, restart selection, like that, and then you want to another one. And like that. So these are basically where we're gonna copy our holes to. Remember that in the back, on the other side, there's also this one is duplicated. So in this one, let's put down a visibility flag on these. Let's first of all actually we don't even have to do that. So this is going to be fine. Let's merge them together. And now we can copy to the, actually let's put down a tube now. Let's make sure it's on the right axis that we want to copy to. Like that, let's make it, well, we can always change it. Now let's copy the points. So first of all, geometry to copy, tube and the points that we want to copy to. And now let's put down a boolean. For boolean, we want to our symmetrized mesh with the copy to points results. Like that. Output flag connected. Put down normal, like that. Now let's take a look at results. First of all, you see we have one problem. It's not actually at the right position. So we have to actually flip it around. Because this slope has to be actually on this side. So let's go back in. And after the merge, all I have to do is select all of it. Put down an edit. And let's rotate it 180 degrees. Let's put the output and let's just move it outwards, something like this. So this looks good enough. And now for the back of it, all we really have to do is, once we have made this one, let's just, before the boolean, let's just take these two and just drag it out way out. So it would also boolean back of it, like that. And that's it. So next up, we can actually boolean all of these. So let's boolean also these edges. After the boolean, in boolean, let's actually output edge groups AB seams, put down the bevel, on that one, poly bevel, in the groups AB seams, let's start beveling them, something like this. And with normal node, remember to make it by face area, like that. Fix up any weirdness. So now that holes are done,